Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 246th episode, we're going to shift gears a little, and I'm going to walk through a few topics and strategies that I've discussed over the past several weeks with various entrepreneurs that I collaborate with, as well as a few high-level strategies from boards that I sit on. I've really noticed there are consistent themes, and it's just a great opportunity for me to share some of this with you. We'll talk some strategy, we'll talk best practices, and I just love hosting these types of shows every 6 months or so, a few times a year, and highlighting various best practices that I come across that I've been able to learn or been able to share in various meetings and travels. For this episode specifically, though, I'm going to speak on the importance and strategy in regards to embracing consumers in healthcare. I'll also speak to where digital health innovations are going and which innovations are winning, which innovations are losing steam in the market. I'll even talk about key functionalities and integrations in healthcare today, as well as the importance of customer success and having a focus on that for your organization. And I'll close with a discussion on corporate strategy, which will include human capital and the importance of leadership, teams, and the people within your organization. I'll also cover, hopefully if I have time, some sales and growth best practices, as well as creating a good pricing strategy. And I'll even touch on creating some repeatable processes so you can properly scale your organization while optimizing your corporate value as well as your teams. These are just a lot of things that, again, I come across, sit on various boards, and every company is evolving differently and some more quickly than others. And so there's best practices there. It's also just, having a good baseline to start and then build. And I'm going to touch on that here in a moment as well. But the first topic is on the importance of embracing consumerism in healthcare. This topic has been around for years. I mean, probably even 15 to 17 years or so. We're doing a good job embracing consumerism in large pockets of the market, in certainly some segments. But there's also a lot of strategies that I notice companies aren't understanding how the consumer comes into play and the importance here. And so that's what I want to take a couple minutes and just understand, around consumerism. Obviously, patients are paying more for their healthcare than ever before. Healthcare is mostly more expensive with everybody. Some people have actually reduced their healthcare expenses, which is great. There's a lot of different strategies and plans around that. And I've actually spoken to some of that in my past. But for the most part, Americans are paying more. They're paying more of their healthcare, and their healthcare is more expensive. So they're making different decisions. They're making wiser decisions. They're also expecting an experience. So if you aren't looking at your product, your innovation, your platform, your solution through the lens of how would a patient use it? How does a provider use it? A doctor, care provider, nurse, or just end users, to making sure that user experience is there. But again, making sure you have the lens that you're looking through a consumer, the patient. How is the patient going to use it? What benefit can I bring to the patient? Is it easy to use? This is something, we use Apple examples a lot, but that's certainly one thing they've taught us is certainly consumerism, ease of use, workflow. We're used to so many values from that. A lot of us use these types of devices, these smart devices, and manage a lot of our worlds. And so it's training us on how to be good consumers with technology, with platforms. So patients are really wanting that. And so just to make sure that you're looking out over your platform, your company, and going, hey, what are we doing to optimize the care journey for the patient? What are we doing to optimize that care journey for the provider, the people working inside that practice or inside that hospital or inside that lab? There's a lot of opportunity there just to make sure that you're scaling your business, you're keeping an eye to where healthcare is evolving, why it's evolving. And as I realized over the past couple of weeks, some people are doing this well and some people are not doing this as well. So it's a key piece to how I'm managing healthcare and how I engage this market and this industry. And also just looking out over your platform. One of my most recent guests on the show here spoke about niche products are really starting to going away and over the, really now, but they really started to go away over the past last year. A lot of niche and point products and point solutions were purchased during COVID. But now people are consolidating, we call it collapsing the stack, but really consolidating onto large platforms, really having a lot of key innovations, key technologies integrated into a single platform. So just think about that. Look critically at your organization, say, hey, are we offering the breadth and depth that we need to? Are we looking, on our product roadmap? Are we always adding integrated innovations? Just to make sure that care strategy for that organization, whether it's a hospital, again, health system, lab, whatever it is, in healthcare, you're really collapsing as much as you can onto a single platform that is fully integrated and also fully interoperable with what it needs to be. Patients don't want to use multiple products. Providers certainly don't want to use multiple products. Organizations don't want to support, 10, 15, 20 different products. So they're trying to collapse as much as they can. All of my current investments in companies that I work with really do offer comprehensive platforms and products and solutions. So it's just something to keep a very close eye on, have deep integration, and again, always working on that workflow, making sure that you're integrated into that care strategy, into that care flow of the practice, of the organization, of the hospital, whatever your end customer is, because you want to collapse as much onto that as possible. So, and again, just to reiterate, if you have a niche product, you really got to look, it might be great, but you got to think about the future and how people are really moving past these one-point solutions, these niche products, because they're not integrated into the overall care strategy for the patient. Providers, again, are having to balance between multiple systems, and it's just not going to work. It's not scalable for the company or the health system, the hospital, whatever it is. And you just got to really think about how do you create simplicity for them. I'm going to cover some simple strategies later on in this show, but just something I wanted to touch on to make sure that you're looking strategically out over your business the next 12, 18, 24, 36 months. And also, revenue cycle keeps on coming up. It's, the importance, obviously, everybody wants to get paid, but where in your strategy are you highlighting opportunities for that organization to make more money, optimize their revenue cycle? Now, I'm not saying become a revenue cycle company. There's a lot of great ones out there, but there are ways that you can help your customers' revenue cycle, maybe through patient collections, more transparency of costs, cleaner claims, cleaner data. There's so many things that we can do as entrepreneurs, as innovators, to really help our customers optimize their revenue cycle, their profitability, their revenue in general. So always keep an eye on it, because the more that you inject without, again, disrupting any workflows or strategies, the more that you can do on the side of optimizing the revenue cycle, the customer's going to love you. Your end customer's going to love you, because it's obviously we all got to get paid. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to bring in as much money, stay profitable, and really serve the greater good. And there's things like, patient cost estimators that are great out there. But again, it's all got to be integrated into the overall strategy. You don't want to create a disparate or a broken process. So just keep a close eye on that. Something, again, this has come up in numerous conversations in my world over the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to make sure I brought it up. Customer success and having a true customer success strategy for your company. So a lot of us offer, implementation, and then we transfer them over to support. But do you have a team dedicated to the success of your customer? Really creating a sticky strategy for your end customers to work with you, to want to work with you, always being optimized by you. So do you have team members inside your organization that maybe have 5 accounts, 10 accounts, 15 accounts, and their sole job is to reach out? How can we be of service? How can we optimize your use of our platform? Is there anything that additionally that you need? Is there something that our technology does not provide you today, or our platform provide you today, that you need to provide that would be relevant to the platform, to our innovation? And so if you keep a close eye on that type of a strategy, that type of attitude from your organization, you will thrive. It sounds very simple, and a lot of my best practices that I share, people are like, oh, well, that's simple. It is. Certainly if you have a culture of customer success, but if you haven't built that into your culture, it could be difficult, because it's a mindset. Again, it's not about offering just support. It's not being reactive. It's a proactive strategy, and it's very engaging. And you can obviously, net retention rate, you can actually increase revenue. So say you have a $100,000 customer, you wrap a good, $100,000 annual, or CAR, I call it, calculated annual recurring revenue, or contracted annual recurring revenue. Either way, if you have a $100,000 annual customer now with a customer success strategy wrapped around it, you could elevate them to $110,000, $120,000, $130,000, depending upon your type of product and service and how good your customer success team is. So it can be very beneficial. These teams pay for themselves. These customers are also usually long-term customers that are being serviced well through a customer success strategy. So just think about that. It's a culture change. It's a proactive, not a reactive. You still could have your support departments, and sometimes customer success and support are under the same umbrella. It makes a lot of sense with a lot of organizations. But again, it's a proactive strategy, looking out how can you optimize your customer, how can you optimize the use of your platform by that customer, and then obviously additional licenses, upsell, really increasing that net retention rate. So be thinking about that. The other item now is really looking out to where the future of healthcare is going. A lot of it is here in some regards, but a lot of it's also coming in around personalized service and personalized medicine, and really creating a custom and personalized experience. Machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence are innovations that really hyperspeed that strategy, but it's something that I've begun to really look into on use cases, and certainly on the patient side. Are there different ways, and even the use by our care providers in a lot of different companies, but really looking at, how do we create a personalized experience? Again, that could be for the care provider using the platform, but also on the patient side. You get to personalize medicine, it's a specific strategy, but really there's technologies, workflows, innovations that can help you create a more personalized experience, personalized service. And that is where you create a much stickier platform. Again, the more you customize it around that use case, the more that you custom around that user experience. Again, that could be the patient, that could be the provider, that could be other users of the platform, and it could be all the above. But really look at how can you enhance that user experience. It goes back to make your product very simple to use. And again, I'll cover some of those processes here later on in the show, but really looking out over your platform and looking for those niches, looking for those use cases, because again, it creates a much stickier experience, and therefore, the utilization of your platform should go up, and that net value of that customer should continue to increase. So it's something that I've noticed coming up more and more lately, and I wanted to cover it. So now shifting gears a little bit onto some corporate best practices. And the topic that I like to bring up first is human capital. The reason being is human capital is about our people, and it's our people that build companies. Not products and not boards and not investors, but people. So whether looking out over from a board level or a leadership level, I consistently look out over my companies and my teams and ensure that you guys have the right people in the right place at the right time, with the right strategy. And again, you say, hey, duh, that sounds simple. And of course, we don't tend to do that, or I do in my organizations, but when I first join a board or first join a company to help them out, I say, when's the last time you as a leadership team or as a board took a step back and looked out over your organization and really understood, what you have, where it is, what's its focus. So one of the, best things that I like to do is, number one, certainly with companies that have over 50 employees, is implement a 360 review process on an annual basis. And so, 360 review should be consistent, but at least you want to look in at it critically once a year. But you have a 360 review process where everybody can give transparent and open, honest and candid feedback. So, and when you know that you're being critiqued, you choose your words more carefully, you interact, with a little bit better behavior. I've noticed that in organizations in my past. I thought the 360 review process was the most rewarding and educational corporate experience. So I highly recommend implementing that. But also, that's a fairly involved process. But when you have more than 50 employees, it's really, truly worth it, or some variation of a 360 review process. The other thing that anybody can do, and I also do this with all my organizations, is stack ranking employees on a quarterly or semi-annual basis. This will ensure that you have the right people in the right place and they have what they need to be successful. So just a little background on what stack ranking is. It's looking critically at every team player and assigning a grade such as A through F to them. And quite simply, the Fs, you probably have to move them out of your organization. The Ds, you critically look at and decide if you can make them a C or if they should be moved out of your organization. The C's, you want to put them on a coaching plan and get them up to B's. In the B's, you want to certainly invest in, and if you can make them A's, that's great. That's what you want to do. And then obviously, and very importantly, you want to make sure that your A's, first of all, you identified your A's, your leadership team, and probably even your board knows who your A players are, and that you work on a retention strategy for them. Because employees, again, good employees, certainly A players, are very difficult to come by. I've done so many companies now, and I tend to keep the A players with me no matter what I do. But they're special people, and so you want to make sure they have the right packages. That could be compensation, base pay, stock, bonuses, options, grants. There's so many different, and it might not even be money. It might be the right balance, work-life balance. It could be, encouraging vacation. It could be giving them, unlimited vacation, because a lot of us, A players, we do whatever it takes to be successful. It doesn't matter where we do it from or how we do it. It's just, there's a lot of core best practices, and those types of people, you want to encourage them to be innovative. You want to encourage them to certainly take time off and rest and be creative and whatever it takes. So, but identifying them is critically important, and then also putting the right parameters and strategies around them. And again, this all goes back to human capital. But again, stack ranking your employees, coaching everybody up. Again, you want to get the B's to the A's. You want to coach certainly the C's up to B's. And not everybody's going to become an A, and not everybody's going to be a B. You can have certainly some C players. You want a lot of B players, and you certainly want as many A players as you can get. And you want to either get the D's and F's out of the organization or coach them up accordingly on specific plans. Everybody in my organizations have weekly goals, monthly goals, semi-annual goals, and annual goals. Everybody in our organization-wide should have goals, and they should all know exactly what those goals are, and we track them. So, and at the end of the day, everybody's much more successful. They feel much more accomplished because they see themselves tackling goals and achieving goals. And also, if they're having other issues in their life, mental health issues, family issues, this is actually a great way to find out what's going on inside their life, because they might start missing some goals. And then you as a leader, you as a coach, you as a manager can step in and say, hey, how are you doing? What can I do for you? And then, I noticed that you're off a little bit. How can we help you, and how can we better support you? Again, it's about a culture. It's about investing in your people. So, and it's, again, goes back to people build companies, not products, not boards, not investors. It's us. So we want to make sure we invest in them and we track them. So one of the areas that I like to focus on is around revenue and really understanding, where your revenue is coming from. I'm going to talk here and probably freak some people out when I talk about taking the right business at the right time. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who, I just want the biggest contract, and they run out there, but we'll get there. But I've got some good, best practices here to kind of share on how to methodically build that. But number one is around revenue. Revenue is king. It always has been king. But a lot of people say, I'm not worried about revenue. I'm just worried about bookings, or I'm worrying about, grabbing market share, and my investors will help out. That's all well and good. And every company's a little bit different. And so there's not a true, black and white on how you should do it. But in all my companies, when you focus on revenue, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, hey, I'm booking revenue. You're creating value for your organization. You're learning when someone's willing to write you a check, they're willing to give you money for your product. You have some value there. And then, as you grow and as you add functionality, you take larger contracts, the value continues to grow. Your company starts to feed off of that. And also, the more revenue you have, the less capital you may have to raise, the less of your organization you may have to give up. Now, again, there's unicorns out there, and there's all different models, and people can go raise, $500 million on having no sales. That's great. I don't really come from that market. I come from the school of hard knocks, where I got to build it and grind it out. But I've noticed all my companies, we always start off with revenue before we take capital, just because I don't want to give up 30, 40, 50% of my company very early in its infancy. So there's a lot of, some of my companies, we have never taken funding, and you built up a good $1 million a month, or $2 million a month, or even more MRR business. Well, you've got, then you can go off and raise capital, and it kind of puts you in the driver's seat of that funding round, and taking funding when you truly, truly need it. And then it also allows you to look for the best investor, or a set of investors, or a private equity group, or venture capitalist. But it puts you in that driver's seat. So it goes back to revenue. and never get too far away from the revenue and controlling your own fate. Keep an eye on scaling. So in the same area, but it's something that, again, this has come up repeatedly over the last couple of weeks with entrepreneurs and boards, is focus on, creating repeatable processes that everybody can implement, not just you and not just your leadership team, but everybody, and creating repeatable processes that everybody easily understands. And it comes back to, I always say, and it's very simple, the KISS concept. Keep it simple, stupid, the KISS concept. So make it as easy as possible to work with you, but also as a philosophy for a business. And here's some specific best practices. Ensure it's easy to understand what your company and products do, easy to see and articulate the value, and very importantly, ensuring your pricing is easy to understand, easy for your sales teams to explain, and even down to your customer contracts or agreements, make sure they're as short and simple and concise as possible. Again, this makes it's an easier process to follow with your company if your contracts are streamlined. You have a really good attorney who's be able to button it up. It's actually something I've had the same attorney for 18 years, and I'm not going to give out his name because I don't want anybody to poach him. But he's amazing. He's a great lawyer, but he's a phenomenal business mind, and that's what I look for in attorneys: is not just the legalese and in the black and white print, but are they good business people? Do they have a good business acumen? Can they help you close that contract? That's really where the value are, not just bill you by the hour and run up the cost, but really get in there and help you get business done. But again, make it easy to do business with your company. Again, simple pricing, simple messaging. And again, this all sounds like, oh God, Justin, this is easy. Of course, duh. No, companies are not doing this. They're not looking out, say, once a quarter or every 6 months over their organizations. Like, what can we do to make it easier to do business with our company? Could we make our marketing easier? Could we, shorten our sales cycles, make it easier to do business, easier to buy from us? Could we make our pricing easier? Just look at that at least every 6 months and see what you can do. It just makes a big difference in scaling your business more quickly. Also, I want to talk about scaling and making sure that you're focused in the right area at the right time. It's something, methodology that I always follow is taking, starting off with the right target market and that you're focused on, but also focus on the right size deals for your business to scale. For example, a conversation that I had this morning was around, how small of a customer do you want inside your organization or to take? Because sometimes it's just as hard to close a $50,000 contract as it is a $500,000 contract. However, there's a lot of people who want to just go off and take the biggest contract, and they cannot. They should not. They say, I want to go take, book a $5 million customer or $10 million customer. But if you cannot service that customer, they can burn out your organization. You can hurt their organization because your technology is not ready for them. And it could be a death nail for your company as well as your aspirations as an entrepreneur. So taking on the right size deal. So for example, I book a $50,000 deal with some of my companies, and then I book a $150,000 deal, then a $250,000 deal, then a $500,000 deal, then $1 million deal, then a multi-million-dollar deal. We methodically take on customers at various sizes to make sure that my company can absorb it, make sure that we can service that customer, our platform can scale, our teams can support, we can give the very best experience to that customer. So again, people just run for the fences. There's a lot of companies who have collapsed and gone out of business because they took just a too large of a bite at that apple earlier on. So that's just a real good strategy for scaling, because you got to scale your sales team, you got to scale your support teams, certainly your customer success teams. You got to scale your development teams and functionality, and there's just a lot behind that. So you still don't want to take up too large of a customer early on. And I'm coming towards the end of the show with some of the other best practices, but really that is about pouring the right foundation for your company and your teams. So again, something that I like to make sure that we methodically take on the right size business at the right time. Also a best practice, I've had the same sales coach for 15 years, sales and growth coach. So again, not gonna give out the name. I don't want to have people poach him, and I have him for multiple businesses that I have inside my world. But having somebody always offering best practices to your sales team, it is the vice president's job or your chief revenue officer or your growth officer. But we all get caught in routines And so have somebody from the outside always asking the hard questions, making sure also, that we're also learning always the best practices. Sales evolves. There's a lot of things that change, best practices that evolve, new things that come out. Well, that's what my sales coach does. Make sure that, we know the latest techniques. A lot of them are long time tested, tried and true. We don't get too far away from them. Like saying our sales techniques are great. Miller Hyman, great sales techniques. However, there's things that we get lazy on and we get repetitive, and we want to make sure that we stay sharp. And that's one thing that a sales coach will always do. So I'm running really low on time now, but I'll probably do another one of these shows highlighting some more best practices. I've got another list. Again, these are just conversations that I've had over the last couple of weeks that have gone very, very well. And I want to make sure that I came, on air today. I had an extra moment and just take a few minutes to share it with all of y'all. So hopefully this was great and helpful to everybody. As always, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to listen to our show. You can join us weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific here on this station. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor, and you use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio so I can respond to your comments from the show. If you miss any of this episode or want to hear more, all my shows are posted on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn. And also, you can check out some of the updates that we put out on justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone, and stay safe.